I want to talk, is it something, I felt that I had something really prophetic that I wanted to share today, and I'm going to preach it, if that's okay. So every now and then it's just something like, I've really wrestled over this week. This has been the hardest week to put a message together, seriously. I felt like giving up and just being sick today. Just, you know how sometimes when you sit down and things just don't come together? Yeah, anyone? No, it's just Hiker and I. We're unique. Who would have thought? But what I want to do is I want to build on what we've talked about over the last, say, 5 weeks. You know, we've had a couple of messages on Jesus plus nothing. Simon Warwick preached about it, and it was a great message that Simon preached for us. And then Matt shared on that as well. We shared some of the journey that he's been on. I shared those 2 weeks around how much value do we place on our salvation? What part does that carry? How precious is this? And then I talked after that, the next week, about the fact that whether we choose Christ or not, there's still a cost to pay. And I think out of all the messages I've ever preached, I got the most comments, I think, ever about probably the last statement I made, where I just touched on hell. And so many people said to me, "We don't preach enough on hell." and I get that, and I add value to that. We probably don't speak enough about it, but I want to reinforce what I said on the day. I would much prefer people to be drawn by the love of God than to rush in his arms fleeing hell. I believe hell is real. It's a literal place. It's how I read my Bible. It's how I've been taught through Bible college. It's how I understand it. If we do not accept Christ, we will go for eternity to hell. So please hear me. I'm not scared to preach about that. But I've spoken with so many people over the years that their whole relationship with Jesus is built on fear. It's the fear of hell, not the love of God. So if we have a message, if we have a drum to bang, I want to bang that drum. That God loves you. He sent his son to die. You know what I mean? That's the message I think we need to bang. But not ignoring the fact that there's a real consequence if we don't choose Jesus. So we talked about that. And then last week, I really loved Pastor Wayne's message on proximity. And I've heard a little bit of that before. He shared that at a national gathering with a national leadership team together and had the different pastors in different states come in. And there's something about that proximity message, and it's what I want to preach about and move on from there. So I want to go from Exodus chapter 33. Now, if you don't remember Exodus 33, I sent out in the newsletter this week, I said, have a read. Get a bit of background. Come kind of prepared with the story, but I want to just give you a bit of it. God starts by giving some instructions to Israel, to the nation, to his people. And it's really clear. He's going like, here's the promise I made. Remember it. Don't forget. You've got all of this. Here's the land. Here's these opportunities. And he said, and here's how I want you to do it. You need to go and da-da-da. And he lays it all out. But he finishes the first part by saying this, but I'm not going with you. And he says, because if I travel with you, I'll probably destroy you all. I'll probably wipe you out because you're stiff-necked, you're hard-hearted, you're rebellious. I mean, isn't that encouraging? And so I read that and I went, oh, wow, that's really harsh. I have selected you as my people. I love you. Here's the inheritance for you to have, but if I go, I'm going to wipe you out. Now, there's a bit of a problem here. And I think for Moses, this creates some turmoil in him. And if you read through the rest of the chapter, you'll see this. There's a wrestle, and I want to talk a little bit about why. Why did this create such an issue for Moses that God was not going to come on this journey? And I think the answer is in last week. Moses had developed proximity with God. He developed this space, this intimacy, this relationship, and he's gone like, just what? You want us to go and walk in the fullness you have for us, but you're not coming with us? And I want to unpack that. Moses in this developing this proximity thing, if you read from verses 7 through to 11, and I'll read them to you now from the New Living Translation, it says, it was Moses' practice to take the tent of meeting and set it up some distance from the camp. I love that. It was Moses' practice. This is something he did regularly. This is what, you know what I mean? This is, what's Moses do? Oh, he regularly sets up this as a place of meeting with God. This is what he does, all right, which is a really good statement for us. Everyone who wanted to make a request to the Lord would go to the tent of meeting outside the camp. Whenever Moses went out to the tent of meeting, all the people would get up and stand in the entrances of their own tents. They would all watch Moses until he disappeared inside, and as he went into the tent, the pillar of cloud would come down and hover at its entrance while the Lord spoke with Moses. So if you know the Old Testament story, there was a pillar of cloud during the day and a pillar of fire by night, and that was the presence of God. When the people saw the cloud standing at the entrance of the tent, they would all stand and bow down in front of their own tents. Inside the tent of meeting, the Lord would speak to Moses face to face as one speaks to a friend. Isn't that powerful? Yeah. You kind of look at that and you grab that and you go, you can understand why this created such an issue for Moses. Just a second, you want me to do this, but I lose this? This stops? And I think you need to get it a little bit. Like, we live in a space now, we're in the New Testament, this new dispensation. We've got this new time where God is everywhere and he meets us with us anywhere. But for them, God didn't just, you just went out to the brook or went up to the mountain or came to church or went into your closet to spend some time with him and God was there. Back in Old Testament times, this is where God resided. That was it. You wanted to connect with God, you wanted to get into his presence, you went to the tent of meeting. Now in the New Testament, in John 4, we have Jesus and he's in Samaria at the well with a woman, and she's trying to kind of embark on this. And she's trying to say, hey, well, you Jews worship God at the temple but in Jerusalem, but we worshiping here up at this mountain. And Jesus is trying to correct her thinking. And he's saying, hey, not anymore. That's how we did it. It's how it was done, but there's a new season. In verse 23 of chapter 4, he says, but the time is coming. Indeed, it's here now. That's all changed. But for those guys, it's how it was. So for God to say, hey, I'm not coming to you, that was a big deal. I was trying to think of it in an example because, sometimes just something practical helps us to get it. And I know I grew up with some people who are really career-driven, super career-driven. So they had a vocation. There was something that they wanted to do. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. But I know one of these guys, it was like, all right, this is where I want to work. Might be, it could be as a teacher, this is the school I would love to be in. I love their culture, I love their principle, I love the way they educate, you know what I mean? Like, you have this desire. This guy was, I want to work for this company in this location. Was that a plug for Andy then? Yeah, he just gave me a nod like, sounds like Calvin. But, is this... And it was really interesting to hear the talk, because it's just like, man, this guy is going somewhere. He has skills. There's a team around him who can mentor me. I want to work in this company at the head office, and it was their desire. That's where they wanted to be. Now, it took a lot of sacrifice, took a lot of study, but eventually to get that job, to be in that place, to have input into them, all of this sort of thing, and they're doing really well. And in a few years, got called into the head office, the CEO's office, and they got given an opportunity. We're going to branch out. We're going to, in a new location, we're going to set up a new office, and we want you to go and start that and head that up. Now, that's a huge opportunity, isn't it? You imagine if you were that way minded, if you were focused that way. Here's a chance. But the thing was, there was a wrestle for the person. While they liked the challenge, they liked the opportunity, the increase in pay, the bigger title on the door, all of these sort of things, what it meant is they had to leave the very reason that they got into the industry. They had to come out from underneath, in a sense. They weren't in the same space. They didn't have the same mentoring and culture. They had to go to a new place and do it all again. Now, for me, that's really similar to this sort of thing, because it wasn't that Moses and the Israelites didn't want to go forward, but it was more what they were leaving behind in the desert, in their view, that they didn't want to do. So if you go through to this, you go into this verse 15, which is what I want to talk about today. And, you get through all of this unpacking. And then verse 15, Moses says, just a second, God, if you're not going to go with us, if you're not going to go, if you're going to be with us this whole time, we're not going. You think about that statement. They've left Egypt out of captivity. They've left everything. They're moving to the place. And this whole promise is we're moving to this new promised land. And they get to this point and Moses says, we're not going. There's no way in the world we're going. If you don't come with us, don't send us. It's massive, isn't it? I don't know if you sit there and you think about that and you go, oh yeah, what's the big deal? For them, that was a massive moment. The whole future, in a sense, is going to be derailed if they don't go. But Moses won't take the people unless God comes. Now, before we talk about the application of that, because God spoke to me about something about that I want to just talk to you about, I just want to look at how this is such a significant shift for Moses. We look at Moses and we see this, this man of God and all this sort of stuff, but go back to the pre-encounter with God, Moses, for a second. And I want to unpack that. I want to just look at that and see how God rebuilt him. See, Moses wasn't really what you'd know as a team guy. He wasn't a team player, all right? He's incredibly capable. You get the stories. He's an Israelite, and he's grabbed as a baby and raised in the palace of Pharaoh, and he's like one of Pharaoh's sons, and he's raised up in this, and he gets out as a man, and he sees an Egyptian attacking an Israelite, so he rises up, he sees an injustice, and the one-man army comes in and he kills the Egyptian, buries him in the sand, and it's like, yes, Moses the deliverer sort of thing. It all goes pear-shaped. He's threatened, he runs, he escapes. He goes to Midian. And I just want to create the pattern for you. When he lands in Midian, the land of Midian, he comes to a well and there's some male shepherds, bad shepherds. And female shepherds bring their flocks to get water, and these male, they harass them and they're trying to drive them out. Moses sees all of this, and what's he do? There's an injustice. One man, the mighty man of Moses, rises up again and drives the male shepherds away so these female shepherds can get water and look after their flock. It kind of shows you this pattern. You look at this, and I get this image of Moses as being this fearless, competent man of action. You agree? And injustice rises and he goes, I'll fix this. But then some time later he sees a bush burning in the desert that fire doesn't consume it. And he's, let's look at this. And it's God speaking to him. And you know what? God gives him the same opportunity again. He says, Moses, there's an injustice happening to your people in Egypt. I want you to rise up in your character, in your nature, who you are, the man of action. I want you to rise up and I want you to go and set them free. And he balks at it. And he second guesses his capacity. I've never really thought about it like that before, but you had Moses, the man who, the old Moses would have went, let's do it. Don't need you, God. Don't need anyone else. Whew, I'm going to do this. But something's changed. I don't know what it is. We can only speculate what's changed here. The Bible doesn't tell us what's changed in Moses. We just know it's not the same Moses, that went in and stood up and fought for all those injustices. All of a sudden, Moses is different. And we start to see a redefining of him from here forward. I just want to unpack a couple of things quick. He says, I can't speak, I stutter, I can't, and God says, that's okay. I'm going to bring alongside you Aaron, who will be your mouthpiece, your spokesperson. They go through and they do all of this. We meet Miriam. So Aaron's his brother. I was trying to work this out. Miriam's Aaron's brother. Wouldn't that make it Moses' brother? Sister? Sorry, I'll get that right. But she's not introduced as Moses' sister. It's like Aaron's sister. I'm like... But we're introduced to her, and we're explained in Exodus 15:20, she's introduced as Miriam the prophet. So all of a sudden you've got like Moses is the leader, the one appointed, and he brings across a spokesperson. He brings across a prophet. He starts to get people around Moses to help and create in Moses this new paradigm, this new way of doing things. Exodus 19, his father-in-law. Has anyone got a good father-in-law? Good, well done, hiker. I have as well. Hi, Don, if you're online today. But I mean, Moses is there and he's just running himself ragged trying to lead like all these millions of people and judge between disputes and all this sort of stuff. And his father-in-law just pops in and he watches and he gives him some advice and he instructs Moses on how to lead and how to manage and structure Israel and all this sort of stuff. You see kind of God bringing all these people around, and Moses is taking it all on board and he's embracing it all. And he's growing and he's shifting and he's changing. But I think the biggest thing that happens in this redefining of who he is as a leader and as a I guess, the man of God that he's been called to be is in Exodus 19. And it's just before the Ten Commandments. And Moses goes up onto the mountain and he encounters God face to face. I know God's been in the journey the whole way, the burning bush, he was there. He said, take your shoes off, it's holy ground. I get all of that, there's provision. There's all of this the whole way to this point, but it's at this point that Moses encounters God in this present sort of way. He spends like days and days up on the mountain just with God. It's this amazing encounter that he has. So when we come back to verse 15, I just want you to see that there's a shift. There's something for Moses to get to this point where he will go, no, God, I won't go unless you come with me. There's been something changed in him. You know, you think back to the beginning, you know, like if he was here and it was still the old Moses and God said, hey, I want you to take the people and I want you to go into the new land. It's flowing with milk and honey. It's a good place. I'm going to send an angel. He's going to just like wipe everyone out. This is going to be great. Moses would have went, as in Moses 1.0, would have went, I'm doing it. Excellent, God, thank you. But he's not Moses 1.0 anymore. He's Moses 2.0. There's been an upgrade. There's been something in it. And he goes, I know better than that, God. If you don't come, it's not worth going. There's this connection. There's this God, I want you in this process. The provision, the protection, all of this comes from you, and I'm not going to do this without you. There's this shift. And I think this is kind of this really exciting thing. And this is a question I really felt God wanted me to ask you today. Is who are you in this story? Are you the pre-encounter Moses in life at the moment? Are you doing things in your own strength? You know, opportunity or problem, doesn't matter either way, negative or positive. How are you facing it? Are you going, hey, I've got my resources, I've got my background, my skill, I've got these going, you know, is that how you break down a problem or an opportunity? Or are you Moses 2.0, that post-encounter with Christ? And are you saying, hey, this opportunity, this problem, God, I need you in the center of this. I'm not prepared to move forward. I'm not prepared to step into anything new if you're not in the midst of it. That was the question. I've just taken about 15 minutes to get to the one thing that God said to me. I just felt it so just sitting on me this week that today, this is a message for some of you guys and girls that are sitting here, that he wants you to do exactly what Moses did. I will not move forward if you're not there with me. that this decision, this opportunity, even this thing that I'm facing, I can't do it by myself. I can't just raise up as the man or woman of action and just take on this myself. I need to make sure that this comes out of an encounter, a presence moment. It's a really big deal. I know it just seems so silly. The title is Don't Go It Alone. And I think we've all got the capacity to go it alone. I know I have. Sometimes I just get into that kind of autopilot moment. I'll need to see someone, I'll be talking with someone, trying to help someone, something, or doing that sort of things. I just go and I go, yeah, this is what I'll do. And I feel God in the back go, you haven't even asked me. You haven't even stopped. You haven't even come to that place of meeting and presence with me. What about if I have something to say on this matter? Now, I understand David totally. I like to fix things. It's just kind of, I don't know if that's just a bloke thing. It's certainly a me thing. I just want to fix things. If something's broken, something's not working for someone, I just want to fix it. What can we do to fix it? And I think what we need to do is we need to hear from God, because sometimes maybe it's not fixing something. There's a whole lot of things we just need to, I just can't get past this thing. We need to press in. We need to press in this season and just seek after God. 21 days of prayer and fasting. I am trying my best not to do sugar. Oh my goodness. One day. And these guys come home with jam donuts. and leave them in the car. Oh my goodness. It's like, God, really? Is this not bigger test enough? I don't know what it is for you, but can I encourage you, press in this time. Do whatever you have to do. Give up the things that just keep occupying your mind. I've been amazed what I wake up in the morning thinking about. I know that's stupid. I know when I'm in just such a tight place with God, I wake up and there's worship music going in the back of my head. Or I'm thinking about, but I know when I'm struggling or I'm distracted, I wake up with stupid things in my head. Songs that I just wouldn't even sing if I could sing. What am I doing today? Oh, I've got to go. There's so much distraction. And I just think, next few days, let's press in. Let's see what he wants to say to us, something fresh in our lives. I want to finish with this, and I just want to get Andrea and the guys up, and the band up. Thank you. You guys did a really good job this morning, so thank you. I don't encourage people enough. If I haven't encouraged you lately, be encouraged. I've put out a general encourage to everybody. I do appreciate, and I honestly mean, I appreciate everybody in this house. I really do. I think we've just got the best local representation of the body of Christ. And I'm not biased at all, okay? But I think we just have so many amazing people. So I just want to finish with this. And if you read the whole of chapter 33, I think it's really cool. God changes his mind because Moses asked. I don't know if you get the significance of that. Oh, that's huge. It shows you the power of presence and proximity. Imagine if Moses went to God and said, hey, God, can you do away with Corona? You know what I mean? I'm not saying don't take weird and go spiritually weird on me in that. But there's this intimacy in this connection where when Moses spoke to God, God listened and this interaction happened because they're in this intimate relationship. Man, don't we want that? Man, I want that. We get it here and Moses has gone, hey, we're not going to go, please come. And God goes, okay, I'll come. Okay. And Moses presses his luck for one more thing. Now, what could he have asked for? Hey, God, you just changed your mind on that. Woohoo! What else can we get here? He says, God, I just want to see you. this big ask. He says, please let me see your glorious presence. I want to see you. That's what he asked. Can that be the cry of our heart? Seriously today, can that be what we cry out? Not, God, give me this stuff or fix this or do that. God, I just want to see you. I want you to be evident in my life. I want you to be evident in my conversations, in the things I think about, the things I do. We're going to sing a song. I don't even know what we're going to sing.
You can sing.
Yeah, what one?
Hungry Booth.
Oh, that's good. Good choice. It's nearly like you knew. So can I just encourage you, let's just stand and sing and spend this song, just spend this moment. But in this next 21 days, find something that will cause you pain to stop doing. Let it cost you something as you press into God. I know what it is. You might think sugar's whatever, Mark. Oh, you got no idea, baby. Far out. One day and I'm like this. I wasn't game to do coffee. But whatever it might be, I made jokes last week, social media, TV, whatever it is. If you can do food, good on you. I can't do that long without food. But it might be just something. But I just ask you, spend the time, make the effort, press in. I want to hear what God says to you. I really do. If it's able to be shared. I'd love to hear what God's doing in your life. I'll never get bored of hearing from people about what God's doing in their lives. It's so encouraging. It's so refreshing. Let me pray and then we'll sing. So, Father, I want to thank you. We love you so much. We just want to acknowledge that, Jesus, without you in our lives, it would be a mess. People comment on the state of the world and how terrible it is and how can a loving God and all this. And I just think, God, if you were not in the world influencing people like you do, my goodness, what state would this world would be in? Lord, we thank you and I pray, Lord, meet with us. Lord, we don't want to move into the next season. We don't want to move into the next opportunity without you, God. We are just saying, God, if you're not with us, don't send us. We thank you in Jesus' name.
Why don't you stand as we sing?